Yo, what's good, YouTube? In today's video, I'm giving you guys my top 5 Zyro recoil loadouts. If y'all enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's get into it. All right, so for our first gun here today, one of the ones that's going to have very little recoil and also be very good is going to be the MW3. It was absolutely hot garbage when it got added into the game, unlike the Superior, which required about 7 nerfs to make it, not be super hard meta. But this gun, after a few buffs, became meta, and it's really fun to use, and also very little recoil when you build it out the right way. So first thing in the muzzle category, what we're going to do is we're going to go throw on the Quartermaster suppressor. This is definitely going to be the attachment you guys want to run here on this gun. I wouldn't really recommend for you to run any other suppressor attachment. It doesn't really make sense. Even something like the VT7, we're not really using that hardly at all anymore, or even just the regular compensators themselves. We don't really use it all, so I'd recommend for you guys to only go for the Quartermaster, and that is going to be your attachment here of choice for your muzzle on this gun. After that, in the barrel section, what we're going to do is we're going to go extend out our range on this thing, because this is going to be our primary long range option. It's not really going to be like a close medium range, style build. This is going to be our long range option. We're going to go throw on the Crown H3 barrel, which does give us bullet velocity in range, aim blocking speed, aiming out of sway, and of course movement speed. Not a lot of these other ones are going to be like super good for a long distance, and even though it does give you recoil control, it messes with your bullet velocity, which is not good. And this one also just messes with your ADS speed, but it does not give you any effective damage range benefits, which is ideally what you need here for this thing. So we're going to boost out our effective damage range to 32 meters, and I think this is definitely going to be the way to run the MW3. After that, we're going to go down here into the magazine section. What we're going to do is we're going to go throw on the 60 round mag. We don't need to go into the underbarrel. We're just going to throw this on here. Of course, we have the stock 30, which is obviously not going to be good or sufficient for a loadout build. We're going to go for the 60, which is, my thing. I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy. So when it is beneficial to have a 60, I should say that. I don't always go for the 60 because it's not always beneficial on some of the guns and some of the builds, but the 60 for this is the only option we got. So we're going to go for that. After that, in the optics section, we're going to go through on the JGod glassless. This is one of those guns where I don't believe you should be using something like a Koryo Eagle Eye 2.5x or anything else like that. Something that's going to be longer range. I believe the JGod glassless is going to be your best bet, just to make it feel very stable, because this is more of like a medium-ish range, medium to longer-ish range AR. It doesn't have the same range as something like an STG or something like that, which is evident by that 32 meters, but it's still very effective as a long-range gun. So we're gonna use the JGod glassless, and this will be perfect for our range that we're gonna be most effective at. Lastly, we're gonna go to the stock section. We're gonna go throw on the Ardent Tac stock. This is going to help us out tremendously with our gun kick control, our gaming stability, and of course recoil control. It does make us slower, but we're not too concerned about that because it's a primary assault rifle, and of course we had a nice 29.7 and 7% increase to our recoil control capabilities, which is fantastic. So this could be my full MW3 Zyro recoil build. Next up, we're going to be taking a look here at the Striker, not to be confused with the Striker 9. This is the harder hitting version of one of the strikers in the game, and I personally really enjoy this gun. I don't get to use it a whole lot because of all the videos I'm recording, and I tend to either be alternating between an AR and SMG, and this one doesn't get picked as much. I'm trying to cover so many other things. But first attachment in here is going to be the Quartermaster suppressor. I mean, like the MW3 and like a lot of these other guns, we pretty much stuck to the Quartermaster for almost every single build now. It's that universal attachment that also just keeps you off the radar, which is fantastic because, previously we're using the M35, which only shortens your radar ping from about 3 seconds down to about 1.5. So you were still on the radar, or other guns, we were just using like a cautious break or something like that, and you're totally on the radar. So it's pretty nice for us to be completely off the radar with almost all of our builds nowadays, or pretty much all of our builds, by using this attachment. We're going to skip the barrel section, go straight down here to the underbarrel, and this is one of those times where we have a couple of different really viable options. So first one in here is going to be the DR6 hand stop, which is fantastic. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I really enjoy running the DR6. Gives you, of course, great movement capabilities, which is what we really want. It is an SMG, which is meant for close range, so you can run the DR6 and be perfectly good right there. Or you can go down here a little bit farther and run the paracord grip, which is going to obviously give you horizontal recoil control benefits. So it's going to stabilize your iron sights there a little bit and make it feel like it's not moving back and forth hardly at all. And also does give you some movement capabilities right there. So between the paracord grip and the DR6, you really can't go too wrong. Run either which one that you really want to, that, or you can even try something like the XRK Edge. Kind of experiment around to see what works best for you between the XRK Edge, DR6, and the paracord. It's personal preference at the end of the day for this one. Ammunition, we're gonna go down here, throw on the 0.45 auto high grains, and what this is gonna do is, of course, it increases our overall recoil, but what it does is it makes your bullet velocity faster than a lot of the other SMGs in the game right now, and it makes your effective damage range farther than a lot of the other meta SMGs at the moment. A lot of them kind of peak out right around 14 meters, maybe a little bit under. So you guys are going to be feeling great about actually using this specific attachment. I really would say that you guys should enjoy this. Makes the gun hit a lot harder. After that, we're gonna go down to the magazine section and throw on the 48 round mag. This is definitely the way to go. Like I was talking about, I mean, I'd like to use the 60 when it's effective, but of course, when we take a look at all the stats and stuff here, I mean, we have a large increase to our overall decrease in mobility. It's an increase to a decrease. Basically, I'm talking about it makes you a lot slower, so we don't need to run the 60. Also, being that this gun only has a 645 round per minute fire rate and 48 rounds in the mag, that's perfectly acceptable. Like, you're going to be getting a full squad wipe here out of 48 rounds if you're hitting your shots. I mean, that's kind of the other caveat there. A lot of people don't be hitting their shots, so you could technically get a full squad wipe out of 48, but it's going to be pretty hard to do. Even kind of for someone like myself who's got a good shot, it can be a little bit tough, but it's still the best thing to have on this gun. Lastly, we're going to go to the stock section. What we're going to do is we're going to go throw on the Lockman MK2 light stock. It's just really good here for overall movement speed and sprint speed. It's not going to really mess with your recoil hardly at all. This is one of those guns where it says and mess with your recoil, stuff like that, but do you really notice it? Not really. It's one of those things you just have to take into the firing range. You can try it out for yourselves. It's not really going to mess with you. Even the crazy part is, even if you were to throw in the no stock attachment, which is going to be my preference on a lot of striker builds, the no stock is really not going to mess with you much, and it says it does a whole lot. So you could definitely try out the no stock if you want extra mobility, but the Lockman MK2 is going to be your safe choice here for overall mobility, getting a little bit of increase, but also not messing with your recoil control capability. So this is my full build here for the striker. All right, next up here in our third slot is going to be the STG. This is without a doubt the #1 primary AR to use in the entirety of Warzone. So if you want to have the best possible lowest recoil, most hard meta gun, this is going to be it right here. So first thing, of course, when you go through on the quartermaster suppressor, not going to explain this one. You guys know what it does, so I'm just going to throw that on there. After in the barrel section, we have a few different options in here. Basically, there's 3 different barrels which are going to be really effective at what they do. So first one being the Bruna Crux Heavy, which is nice because it gives you that 45.7 meters of effective damage range. That's kind of the main value you are looking at, apart from your general bullet velocity. Bullet velocity pretty much on all these barrels is going to be above 1,000. The other thing we're looking at is, are we getting recoil control benefits here from this barrel? In which case we are, which is really nice. So we can go to that one. We have the Heinrichter C70, which does give you the most amount of effective damage range and pretty much the most bullet velocity, but it also doesn't help with your recoil control at all. So keep that in mind. If you use this specific barrel with this specific setup I'm giving you, you'll have a little bit of that visual recoil and it's going to bounce a tad, but also you're gonna have the most amount of effective damage range. And lastly, the Fengur, whatever you want to call this thing, the 792 long barrel. I mispronounce it every single time without fail, but basically this is also another great barrel here. The only downside is that you see it gets effective damage range and recoil gun kick, but it also messes with your mobility a lot more than the Bruna Crux. So the mobility, there's no red behind my face cam in the mobility tab, but for the 792 there's a bunch of red behind there, so it is going to slow you down the absolute most, as opposed to using the Bruna Crux Heavy. So this is going to be our choice right here, is this barrel specifically. If you feel like you're a bit of a higher skill player, want more range, go for the C70 and you can rock the exact same build. But overall, for the lowest recoil possible, it's going to be this barrel right here. And it's also not going to mess with your overall mobility at all. After that, we're going to go in the optics section. We're going to throw it on the Jack glassless. If you want to, because this thing has such little recoil, I've had great success personally using the Choreo Eagle Eye. So let's scroll down here a little bit. To actually go find it. It's one of those things, there's so many optics in this game that are so useless that it's kind of a pain in the ass to go find stuff. But basically, the Choreo Eagle Eye 2.5x, this is going to be like the other optic I'd recommend. Don't really want to go for any of these other ones. Even something like a regular red dot you could go for. But basically, it's going to be the Choreo or the Jag glassless. Those are going to be your top 2 primary options for the optics section. Of course, magazine, we're going to go throw on the 50 round mag down here. Got to extend out our overall magazine capacity. We only have 30 round stock, which is not good. 40 rounds, I've seen people build it as like, an SMG, kind of like a sniper sport, where you build this thing to be super mobile. It actually works out pretty well with the 40 round mag, but for long range purposes, the 50 is where it's at. And then stock section, we go in here, throw on the DR79 combo stock, which is going to help with your overall gun kick control everything like that. We can toggle the detailed statistics here. Nice 21, 11, and 11% increase there to help us, which pretty much does everything we absolutely needed to. No reason to have any extra recoil control things on this gun. So that's gonna be my full build right here for the Zyro recoil STG. Next up, I want to give you guys a build here for the static. This is gonna go absolutely phenomenal if you want to pair this with the STG. I'm sure a lot of guys have seen the STG static combo in your lobbies, and this is going to be the best setup for it. So first thing, of course, quartermaster suppressor, like always. Not gonna explain this one, just got to throw that on there. Barrel section, there's not really a lot of great options in the barrel section. Pretty much this first one right here, the Auger 840 is what we go for. It just makes us faster. It says it messes with your recoil. I'm not really buying that too much. This is one of the lowest recoil SMGs in the game, probably apart from the Superior when you build it right. So I mean, the Auger 840 light barrel is just kind of one of those things that I would always recommend to run, even though it does negatively affect your recoil. I don't really see it being an issue at all. We're gonna go down here on a barrel section, and basically what I always like to go ahead and run is I like to go ahead and run. Actually, I probably must have just scrolled right past it. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. The paracord grip. I don't know why I was just glancing over that. Pretty much all these grips look all very, very similar, minus like your DR6 and MSP 98. But paracord grip is going to be the way to go for this thing. Just helps you with your overall horizontal recoil and your ability to, sprint to fire, aim idle sway, aim walking steadiness, all that sort of fun jazz. I think this is going to be great right here, so I'd recommend for you guys to run that. Now we're going to go into the optic section, and keep in mind, so this is one of those things that you could actually not run an optic if you really enjoy the iron sights for this gun. Then I'd recommend for you guys to go for like a laser. So we'll go to the laser category, and the Chimera RYL33 is going to be pretty much like your go-to for like a laser, because you don't really have options for a lot of other attachments on this thing to make it better or useful. Basically, if you're not running an optic, you should only be running a laser. Nothing else really you should be running. This actually does help out quite a bit, so go for that. If you don't want to run that, go for an optic and throw in something like the Jag Glassless. One of my other ones that I really enjoy running personally on this thing, just because it looks really just nice, is the Nahv model 2023. Not going to be like zero recoil. The Jag Glassless will technically be a little bit less, because it does have the ability. It says, this just says precision sight picture. First, we go back, scroll over to the Jag Glassless. This does say firing aiming stability, so you'll get a little bit more out of this versus the Nahv model. But for me personally, I like the Nahv model. I have no issues with recoil in this game, so I just kind of use what feels best for me. But overall, this will be the best statistical option, or statistically the best option. Lastly, stock section, we go for the Strahfe 33 light stock. Listen, we got to keep you guys feeling fast and fluid at close range. You're trying to go for something that's just pure recoil. I mean, listen, right here, the FSS Guardian stock, this is going to make it probably so your gun doesn't move at all. I personally have not tested this out. I've seen pro players use it, but I'm like, for the large majority of us that are playing Rebirth, playing Vandal, something like that, a little bit of big map, when you're getting in close quarters, what you really care about is having a little bit more mobility rather than having something that does physically not move. You're going to be moving around, so you probably won't notice it much. As long as it doesn't jump around, you can deal with a little bit. So the Strahfe 33 is the way to go, and this is my full build here for the static HV. Last but definitely not least, this is going to be the most zero recoil out of any gun in this entire top 5, the SVA 545 in the burst mode. That's the most effective way to use this thing, so let's give you guys the best setup for it. First thing, quartermaster suppressor. I'll tell you guys this right now. So the quartermaster is just obviously one option for this thing. If you want to go a little bit crazier with it, and you can deal with a tad bit of that visual bounce between the bursts, which is something that I am perfectly fine with, but the quartermaster is still probably going to be my go-to. If you want a little bit extra range, you're going to want to go for the sonic suppressor. Obviously, these does negatively impact your recoil, but because the burst, or just because it's a burst, it really doesn't do hardly anything. You're not really going to notice it. It's one of those nice little tricks or nice little quirks with the gun, is that in full auto you're definitely going to feel it. In burst, you're really not. So sonic suppressor if you want extra range and stuff like that. Otherwise, the large majority of people should just go for the quartermaster. Barrel section, you go through on the first one in here, the STV precision barrel. This gives you the most amount of effective damage range, which is what we really care about. Of course, we take a look at it. Your effective is 41.4 meters, which is great. The only downside is that, of course, our blue flossy isn't as fast, but it is something we're going to correct out here and make even faster. And that means we're going to go down to the ammunition side of things and throw in the high grain rounds. Of course, this boosts us out to just a little bit past 1,000 meters per second blue flossy, and our effective damage range of 47.6 meters. So you can truly beam people at range with this thing. It's going to feel fantastic, and I would recommend for you guys to run the high grain on this. just makes us so much more effective at longer ranges, which is what you're going to be using this thing for. Medium to longer ranges. Don't really recommend close range. That's why you got something like your Static or your Superi or your FJX Horus or something else like that, or your BP50 SMG or your Jack Raven, you know, MCW. There's so many options out there. Next up, we're going to the magazine section, throw on the 60 round mag. Listen, 60 round mag kind of guy, this is the most effective way to run this gun. It's a true AR, primary AR between the 45 and the 60. Just got to go for the 60. And last but definitely not least, the optics section. Pretty much two options in here because it's going to move so little. We have the Jack Glassless, which is going to be great for a lot of us, like, you know, Resurgence players, myself included, because that's what I specialize in, is Resurgence, Rebirth, Vondel, a little bit of Fortune's Keep every now and again. But basically Jack Glasses, or you can go down here a little bit farther and go for the tried and true. Where is it going to be at? The Choreo Eagle Eye 2.5x. This is just one of those guns like the STG, which has so little visual recoil, especially when it's in the burst mode, that it's going to work out great if you want to use this, or you can go for the Jack Glasses. Totally up to you. But this is my full build right here. This has been my top 5. You guys enjoyed this video, give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe, notifications turned on, check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you all next time.